Good day, everybody. This is Michael Liveris from JurisQ.com. We are a legal network of different attorneys, different practice areas in various cities and states. And today we bring back our commercial real estate guru, Sinayskaya Yuniver, a very experienced attorney, a partner in the firm of Sinayskaya Yuniver. Stephen, welcome back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me back.
Sure. We love having you because you educate us on real estate. Real estate is one of the most prized possessions that people have. And also a lot of people are in business of real estate. And there's so many nuances and details from a legal perspective to consider. It's always good to hear from an attorney firsthand on what are the potential pitfalls and what to look out for. And today I want to talk about house partitions. Partition is what you may imagine, dividing the house, right? But sometimes it's not physically dividing the house in half, but rather legally. Tell us where and how you come across these partitions, and are they mostly in a residential or family arena, or are there business partitions as well?
So I think it's a very important subject, especially during economic downturns. And I think we always, in every single one of our conversations, we go back to the one thing is written agreements are important. You never want to use them, but you got to have them. And what I note, and a partition, there's various forms of partitions. There's a partition in kind and a partition in sale. So there's a partition where you sell the property, and there's multiple property. So usually when there's multiple owners or multiple people saying they own the property, and you sell it and you divide the assets between each other by a certain number. It could be 50-50, it could be 10-90, doesn't matter what. Okay. Then the other form of partition is, let's say there's a multi-unit building, and they could potentially give one partner X amount of units, another partner X amount of units, and then you partition it. That one most people don't like because you're still technically in business together. So there's usually the sale, and what I usually mostly see it is families who, unfortunately, somebody had a financial downturn, needs the money to sell the property, the other one doesn't, and then you argue. But quite a bit is just regular partners, business partners who bought a building. And I gotta say, you always have to have an agreement, no matter how long people are partners for. I've had individuals come to my office that have been partners for 30 years, and they just got into one argument, and now they want to sell the property. And this is after 30 years of appreciation. This was about a $15 million property, so quite a bit. Or there's just it's a very unfortunate situation, but that's why it's important to have everything written beforehand, so you know your rights at that time.
Yeah. So Stephen, so in the agreement, you could put down what happens if one partner wants to get out or wants to leave this particular project or property, correct?
Right. There's usually triggering events. Let's say you give 10 days notice to the other partner to buy you out, or you put it on the open market. There's various alternatives of how to structure this, but it's really important just to have it there. Or so most of the time it's a partner buying the other partner out. When you can't figure out who's going to buy the other out, you put it on the open market and then give a right of first refusal on the highest amount, or you don't give it to them. There's an endless amount of ways of doing it. But if you don't agree on it, then you have to go to court, and a judge most likely will create a sale of the property on the open market.
Okay, I see.
And that usually is, you get it at a lower rate. Could be a potential bidding war, and sometimes a judge picks their own broker, and those broker fees could be anywhere from 6 to 15%. So unlike, so you're and the money that you're spending on an attorney who's suing, you never think about it until the last moment.
Sure. Yeah. Stephen, you discussed right now the business partitions. What about on the personal level? You said sometimes family members may fight over what happens with the property. Let's say somebody inherited the house. Let's say even two brothers, brother and sister, and one wants to let it stay, another wants to sell it. Is that also the case where partition could come into play?
100%. Let's say you inherit a house. The majority of them that I see is when one family member is living in one of the units in a multifamily house,
I see.
or when, let's say it's a single family house and one family member is living there.
Mhm.
Then all of a sudden, I don't live there. It's inherited to me. I deserve X amount of dollars.
Right.
I want to sue.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
That
it's
gets
like,
costly.
right. And the most recent ones I've seen are two family homes where two brothers were living with each family on each floor. This was a massive house. It was like 6 bedrooms on both floors, probably worth around $7 or $8 million.
Mhm.
And they sued each other. My first partition case was actually 15 years ago. And it was two brothers in Queens, and it was a small house for 2 bedroom on each floor, two family, and they sued each other, unfortunately, at one point when they just couldn't agree anymore.
Interesting. Now, in a real estate held by people, not business, you can also work some kind of a deal beforehand, a contract that would pre-envision what would happen in the event one wants to sell.
Right. And I think the danger of a lot of people Google contracts think that it's impossible, but there's various forms of contracts. You could create a joint venture agreement
Mhm.
without a company. You could put everything into a company. There's various forms of contracts. The one thing we need to understand that people should understand, oral contracts are legal in New York except for legal in New York except for real estate.
Mhm.
Real estate there's real estate goes under something called the statute of frauds,
Right.
and which actually just means a real estate contract has to be in writing to be enforceable.
Understood. Okay.
So oral agreements for real estate are not enforceable in New York.
Got it.
So
Stephen, very wise words. Thank you for explaining to us how partitions work. The one thing I want to add is, like you said, Stephen, when you're buying a piece of property with somebody else, be it commercial, residential, very important to hire an attorney that has seen possible problems and issues that could arise down the road. So it's always advisable to go to an attorney to prepare a contract or an operating agreement that would discuss ahead of time why you're still in good terms, by the way. While the parties are still speaking to each other, partners, family members on good terms, discuss what happens down the road, rather than going to court and hashing it out when there's bad blood.
yes, and I just want to end on one other thing. You hear of operating agreement that I keep saying an agreement, but I want you to remember that a lot of times parents, grandparents, or family members want to leave their kids property, and they don't want their children to fight with each other. You
Sure.
can always do this with your estate's attorney to make sure there's a will that says what happens to the property when you pass away.
Perfect.
If you want your kids to be able to live there, you could put it in there. You want to make sure that you talk to an estate's attorney as well. It's really important to have everything in writing and a good team of legal operatives behind you.
Yeah, I would add, speak to your estate attorney, but also get your real estate attorney so they can
Right.
work together as a team to build the best possible solution for you. Stephen, thank you so much. I just want to underscore, this is general advice only by an attorney. If you have specific questions, if you have an issue you want to discuss with an attorney for consultations, you can call the number on the bottom of the screen. Stephen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next month with more Q&As on commercial real estate law. Take care.
Thank you, Michael. Take care.
Thanks.